When we look through a telescope, we see some amazing views. Sights of wonderful, different worlds we've only even dreamed about. And if we could fly low over our moon in a spacecraft, this is how it would look. Our moon is a wondrous place. It has mountains, craters, some dead volcanoes, and even looking at it with binoculars, you can see the craters and the mountains on the moon. You could put Puget Sound just inside this crater, Plato. Long, long ago, meteors crashed into the moon, making the craters and splashing out rock in these big, flower-like streaks. If you want to start studying something up in the sky, start with the moon. You'll get a surprise and a different view every time you look at it. We'll fly over the moon once more. Remember something else. We've been there and we're going back. Now we're going to take you on a telescope trip through our solar system neighborhood. Here's our neighbor planet, Venus. Through a big telescope, it looks a lot like our moon. Now the planet Mars. We're going to show you what Mars looks like as it turns around in one day. And as it turns, you can see Mars looks a lot like our Earth. That white dot at the top is a polar cap. It's more like Earth than anything else up in the sky. Mars has craters, clouds, dust storms and windstorms up to 200 miles an hour, snowstorms, deserts, mountains, huge volcanoes, and canyons larger than anything we have on Earth, frozen lakes, and polar caps. Here it is turning around. And finally, early in the morning of September 22nd, 1988, we get our best view of Mars this century. Now, the streaks coming down from the dark part in the center are what they used to call the canals of Mars, and you can see them in this video. Years ago, before our spacecraft landed there, we thought there were people on Mars who made the canals. Our spacecraft discovered there were no plants, no animals, or people on Mars. But you can now tell people that you've seen the canals of Mars. That white streak down at the bottom is a storm on the other pole. Mars is fascinating to us because it's where we're going to go next. And here's Jupiter, a huge planet. Over on the right side, that little dot is one of its 16 moons. Jupiter has huge belts of clouds. What we see are the tops of the clouds. On the lower belt is the Great Red Spot, which is the top of a gigantic storm. And now here's the giant ringed planet Saturn, passing in front of a star. We have discovered that the rings are made up of large chunks of water ice. Comets, like Comet Kohatek shown here, are visitors to our solar system. Like some guests, we never know when they'll arrive. Comet West in 1976 was a great comet. After it went around the sun, it broke up into 4 parts. Here's Comet Bradfield. And now the famous Comet Halley in 1986. From an airplane high over California, our video cameras recorded not only the head and the tail of Halley, going up to the upper right of your screen, but meteorites streaking near the comet head. One's coming up on the left side of the comet head. Now, we'll do it again. One's coming right to left over the top. Now, and we'll do it again. When we look at our sun, we see sunspots. This sunspot group is the biggest one in years. Now we're looking straight down on a solar storm or flare. This long prominence is as long as from the Earth to the moon, and sometimes these solar flares give us beautiful northern lights or auroras. And this is what it would look like if we went inside of an aurora. When our moon comes between us and the sun, we have a partial eclipse like this one in 1990. In 1989, we've shortened down a 4-hour partial eclipse to show how it happens. See the moon going in front of the sun. And when the moon completely covers the sun, we have a total eclipse. The next one is in 1991. When we're looking through our telescopes, the video camera records some pretty funny sounds while we're taking our pictures. Fireworks on the 4th of July, my neighbor singing in her shower, Canadian geese while shooting Mars, crows while looking at the moon, fire sirens while recording Venus, coyotes in Jupiter, the ferry Spokane honking during an eclipse, and the Sandpoint sunset horn. Listen.
La 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 la.
When videotaping, we also pick up some funny sights. Look down at the lower right for the seagull crossing the sun during an eclipse last year. Now. And the tops of the trees on the Olympic Mountains are coming into view. When birds and planes and satellites fly between us and what we're videotaping, we see some strange things. Here's a plane going across the moon. It's in the lower third, going from right to left. And here's another plane going across the moon. Now let's end this up with how the moon would look if we flew low down over the craters. remember that the beauty of the heavens is all around us. When we look out into space, we're looking out at life and to where we're going next. There are some amazing and fascinating sights waiting for you when you study the sky.
Too much to get excited about.
No, it will not cause no surprises on the Sunday forecast.
Thanks, Harry. We all have hobbies, and we all know people who get really involved in their hobbies. But when somebody with a hobby can interest someone else in their hobby, now that's really something. And John Collins has a story about a man whose hobby is taking neat pictures. And those pictures don't wind up in the closet.
The moon. You can't deny its stark beauty. These days, a picture like this is taken for granted. We've been there and back several times with live pictures delivered right into our homes. But there is something different about these pictures. They were taken from a Seattle backyard, now get this, with a home-brewed combination of telescope and video camera. Alan Macfarlane is a photographer, not a professional. He's a specialty wood and lumber dealer by day and scans the heavens by night.
I can't not come out on this porch of a night and feel I've done anything unless I've gotten at least 6 still pictures or at least half an hour's worth of video. Then you can come down from the mountain or come in from the porch with something tangible that you can share with somebody else.
The telescope is a big one and the least common item you'll find in the average household. Beyond that, you could easily get the rest of Alan's astronomical equipment. A 35mm still camera and an off-the-shelf home video camera, video recorder, and TV set. The end result, pictures. Lots of pictures.
It's not doing anybody any good if you're just doing it for yourself. But if it can let a kid see what Jupiter looks like through a telescope, or what Mars looks like, see the polar caps of Mars, then you got something.
Alan Macfarlane takes his tapes on the road to schools in and around Seattle. It's quite a show, and elementary school kids have lots of questions.
Why is the moon so many different colors at once?
Actually, the moon is basically the same color as our dirt of our planet. Sometimes when it's down on the horizon, it looks orange or yellow, and as it gets up toward the top, it turns bluer.
The range of questions is, well, astronomical. What's a nebula? Will the sun burn out? What about living on the moon?
How long is it going to take before people live on the moon? In your lifetime, probably. We'll have a space station first, and then we'll go to the moon.
Alan Macfarlane's hours of peering through a viewfinder bring him plenty of satisfaction. And for over 4,000 kids, Alan's astro videos have brought real-life star trekking right into the classroom. John Collins, Cairo News.
I don't know about Alan's neighborhood, but if I tried to set up one of those rigs out in my back porch, I'd upset some neighbors.
I'd like to see some of those videos myself.
It looks like a fascinating hobby. It really is. And it's neat that he shares it with other people, too.
Well, how for us now? He's out on top of the Edgewater Inn out in the Seattle's waterfront to talk about the forecast. But more importantly, Nick, you're there to tell us about a solar eclipse.
That's right, Brian. We'll talk about the forecast a little bit later. As you know, we've had a lot of sunshine today, but the sunshine is going to be cut by about 70% before sunset this evening. And here to talk about that a little bit is amateur astronomer Alan Macfarlane. Alan, what is significant about tonight's solar eclipse?
Very few times do we have a sunset with an eclipsed sun going down over the Olympics.
How often do we see an eclipse, just a regular solar eclipse?
Well, we've had a partial last year in '89. In March, we had a partial in the morning. In '79, we had a full. And, of course, we're getting ready. This is a dress rehearsal for the big one next year in Hawaii and Cabo San Lucas.
Now, we'll only see about a 70% blockage. Who will see a full total eclipse?
The only large town that it's going over is Helsinki, Finland. It starts there and it runs across the top of Asia, down through the Gulf of Alaska, and then out to the middle of the ocean, somewhere between San Francisco and Honolulu. We've got a better chance in Seattle to see this thing than probably any place else in the country.
Now, just tell me a little bit about some of the dangers in a solar eclipse. You know, people are prone to look at the sun. How should they see it?
Well, they should look at it with something like aluminized mylar, a candy bar wrapper that has this aluminized mylar. Don't look at the sun with your bare eyes. Retinal degeneration can happen, and it's painless, but it'll ruin your eyesight for the rest of your life. If you can, project the image onto with a very small lens onto a piece of paper and look at it that way. But as it gets down in the west, it'll be beautiful.
When will we be able to see this? Starting when?
Yes, the sun will be covered at the bottom first by the moon at 7:51 tonight, and then at 8:40 it will be maximized at about 70%, and it will set in eclipse at 8:58.
Now, you're going to be watching it with your telescope up here and recording it for us, and we'll have the tape later on our 11 o'clock news tonight, so we appreciate that. We will be back with a look at the weather a little bit later on, and the forecast, as you might expect, it involves...
Did you see it? If so, I hope you wore some eye protection. I'm talking about the partial solar eclipse tonight. Our area was one of the best stops in the world to see it tonight. Courtesy of astronomer Macfarlane, we have these beautiful pictures of the moon moving in front of the sun. At its peak, 3/4 of the sun was obscured. That happened about 8:40 tonight. Some dramatic pictures there. Fire in Issaquah this evening. The flame